adoption of the agenda as recommended by the superintendent.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we adopt the agenda as recommended by the superintendent.
Second. Thank you, Mr. Dodd, and I'll give that to Ms. Counts if that's okay, Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens' comments? Need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, a second by Mr. Dodd. Do you have any questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. That's okay. Moving with our recognition of donations, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman. We have two on the consent agenda today, a $500 donation to Citrus High School from the Haley Group, a donation of 2008 Yamaha gas-powered dog cart to Christopher High School from Eagle Buick GMC.
Thank you very much. And thank them. Okay. Educational services, who we got speaking, Mr. Mullen? Not you, right?
This is just a contract that we update every year. I think it's,
Got it. Do we have a motion?
I move approval, that we approve the contract for achievement rehabilitation, through
Therapeutic.
therapeutic intervention for physical, occupational, and speech-language therapies.
Second. Thank you, Ms. Counts. We have a motion by Mr. Kennedy, a second by Ms. Counts. Ron.
Madam Chair, prior to discussing this matter, I would like to inform the board and the general public that I perceive a potential conflict of interest and that my wife, Laura C. Dodd, is a contractual part-time employee of Achievement Rehab, and as such, I will abstain from voting pursuant to Florida Statute 112.3143 as I perceive a potential conflict in this matter.
Okay, thanks, sir. Do we have any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. School Sports Service. Hey, you.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
We are doing great. We are hiring like crazy, which is good news.
That is good news.
Okay, we ask that the board approve the instructional and support recommendations as outlined in the goldenrod.
I make a motion that we support the superintendent's recommendation for the personnel and support personnel on the goldenrod.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Counts, second by Mr. Kennedy. Let me just check this over, make sure you didn't slip something else in here on me. I don't think you did. You wouldn't do that, would you?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Yeah, oh, purpose. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Straight legal matters. Nice. Did you approve the minutes?
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Thank you, Mr. Dodd. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Board member committee reports and other business to come before the school board. Ms. Counts?
None.
Okay. Mr. Kennedy?
First, I want to congratulate Miss Manning as the new
I gave you
principal.
my time.
Of course you did.
Miss Manning is the new principal, as the new assistant principal at Homosassa Elementary, and also Miss Varnador, who's the new assistant principal at Crystal River High School. They are no strangers to this district, but it's exciting that they're moving on and doing good stuff for us. Just something that has been made aware, and I want to make sure this board is aware of. There was a recent proposal by the Florida Department of Education, and I want to thank the Florida Association of School Board Superintendents for coming out publicly against the Florida Department of Education's proposal to do away with the post-secondary education readiness test, or what most of us know as PERT. They want to do away with it as an alternative assessment option for those students that do not pass the Algebra 1 EOC, or what we call the end of course exam. We need to just remember that If you don't pass one of the last barrier tests for high school is the Algebra 1 test, as well as the ELA EOC. And many of our students have used the PERT exam as an alternative assessment. Florida Department of Education is claiming that the PERT has only a middle school expectation and that it's just plain not good enough. Yet, what's interesting is that the PERT is used as an entrance exam for our Florida colleges, such as CF. It should also be noted that if you're a homeschool student, you use the PERT in order to gain access to CF, both in math as well as in ELA. So if it's good enough for our Florida colleges, one would think it would be good enough as an alternative to our FSAs. We have continued to say we need more assessment options and not less, and that's really my issue. They are wanting to replace the PERT with the PSAT, or what a lot of us know of as the pre-SAT test that's used in 10th grade. But let me just explain to you where our PERT results have been at. This year, or this summer, many of our students that just couldn't quite pass the FSA during their school year came back after the school year so that they could get their high school diploma. Of the 79 students that took that PERT math exam, 70% of them passed. This is an essential part of our students getting out of their high school education and being able to move on to post-secondary education. It's what's right for kids. And I will be sending my support to the Florida Department of Education, most specifically to the Florida Board of Education, telling them that I hope they do not do away with more options because we need more of them. I'm still a big believer and a pusher of portfolio, the use of a portfolio system, using mini assessments, using alternatives, and I hope we do that. And then, Madam Chair, the other thing is Ruth Mellon emailed us all recently regarding the development of the Florida School Board Association's 2018 legislative platform. I understand I was nominated at FSBA.
Yes, you were.
I appreciate that, to represent Citrus on the legislative committee. So I can't hide, I can't run, even if I wasn't at the meeting. But I would encourage us all to begin making a list of improvements that we know we're going to need this next legislative session. And I hope we have a chance to present them both to this board as well as to individually lobby, because we need more changes.
Tom, could I add one thing to your comment? The PSAT is a junior test, for the National Merit Scholarship thing. It's only offered one time in October, where the SAT is offered almost every other week. So I would take the P off that and just leave the SAT as the.
Yeah, but they're wanting to do away.
That limits to one test 1 year, where the SAT is offered every month.
I think we offer it now for PSAT. Mr. Mullen, I believe we offer it in the senior year as well for a certain select group of students. And I know I was talking to Amy Krause. She was saying that we actually offer it twice to students in their high school career. And then there is nothing that says if the state requires it, like the PERT, we would then have an obligation to continue to offer it more than just once.
It's a College Board test, it's Lexile, we don't know what
It's
the
College
state.
Board.
Right. And again, it is not what the purpose and design of that test was. It is not how it's supposed to be used. The PERT is used for post-secondary educational readiness. Why now that they're not going to accept it? Certainly, it seems like maybe we're too successful. But it is what our colleges are using to allow our students access to their education.
Well, it's interesting though that I'm not for more assessments. I know that's not what you're saying.
Oh,
You're
no,
saying-
I'm for less.
You're saying the option.
Right.
Losing the
We're
option,
losing that option.
which has been a successful one for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would just assume them do away with the requirement of the Algebra 1 end of course. If they're not going to do that, then they need to have more alternative assessments. And ideally, they really need a portfolio system for these, just like we have in third grade.
I reminded some of our legislators before the session ended that if they allowed the children to come into our high schools at any level, ninth, anytime before the 10th grade FCAT test, to allow them to take the ACT or SAT, they could probably save 30% of their cost of testing. Because 30% of our kids will pass the test when they take it. And if they let them take it at any time before that FCAT test, still FCAT, I don't know what to call it, but in March of their sophomore year, 30% of our kids will have to test.
But they'll allow homeschool students to take this test in middle school, and as long as they pass it, they can start going to CA. And that's the law.
We had 70% of kids that took that for the summer before we passed the math portion. That means their algebra 1 requirement.
And that's huge for us.
Absolutely, it's huge for kids.
Absolutely.
Yes, it is.
That, roughly equates to 55 students now are likely to have their high school graduation diploma as a result of that. That's it.
Mr. Dodd?
Well, I also would like to make those comments on our 2 appointments for the assistant principal positions. I think those people are very well qualified, excited to see them be given an opportunity to lead. I did speak with superintendent staff in regards to the emergency entrance exit option there for Saunders Way in the Canton School Complex. We had a discussion about that. I know they're working on that. But I didn't know, Ms. Himmel, if you'd like to just give us an update to the whole board on how that's looking right now with the impact fees, monies, and what we're doing. I mean, that is an issue we all know is important to this board, and so I thought it might be a good thing to just touch base.
Yeah, myself and various staff members went and met with county administrator and his staff, had a very in-depth conversation about that project. We want to try to be good community partners with one another. The county commission did have on their, I believe, their June agenda to adopt the approval of the funds to the impact fee dollars to refund us once the project's complete. Mr. Dixon has sent a letter to the county to clarify, just to make sure, so we have in writing that yes, it is going to be refundable. They are voting on their minutes, I believe, today, and so Mr. Dixon will send that letter for certainty tomorrow. Once we get that letter, once we're in receipt of that letter, we will begin to look at doing a traffic study out of the Lecanto complex and begin to move forward with that project. And we'll keep you posted as we begin.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
For clarification, the traffic study, though, how and what bearing does that have on the work that we were looking to do? Because our improvements were ones only on our properties, and we're not increasing traffic. It was to make sure that we had an emergency egress.
Right. And that's correct. We're only going to do the study, traffic study on our property. We're not going to pay for the study off-site. We were very clear with the county that that's not something that we're interested in doing. All our efforts and focus will be on our property. The purpose of the study will be multifold. Number one will be to give us a baseline data, up-to-date baseline data as to the traffic flow and the traffic volume that we currently have on our campus. So should there be any kind of development that happens off-site from us that maybe necessitates some other roadways in there, that we have that baseline data to show that we really didn't have the imposition that is caused by whatever type of off-site development, first and foremost. And also through the scope of this project, we're going to look at the internal traffic flow as a component of our emergency access, ingress and egress, if that makes any sense. So we want to try to take a holistic approach, or a real comprehensive approach, but the study will be only on our property for our needs only.
And that, I believe, meets with the case law that's taken place in the past, where we have to deal with our property, not with the access to the property. That we don't have the means to do that. We're really not supposed to be using funds for that.
That's correct. My understanding, and of course I've deferred to Mr. Bradshaw, but my
At least
understanding.
past case law, I think.
In Hillsborough County, I think there's a Hillsborough case that addresses that.
We are not required.
That's correct.
It's not a prohibition.
Is that it? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I have nothing. Someone? A
weeks ago, Susie shared that we had about 25 open positions. We're still about at 25. We're still processing applications. We've probably got 10 or 15 that they're processing currently, so hopefully those will be processed and that number will go down. However, we hired four left for locations and those types of things, so, but we're in a lot better shape at this current time than we were last year this time, so just keep y'all posted.
Superintendent, I know there was a process that we usually do every year, that when we get to a certain point in the school year, we just kind of, in the summer, we hold off hiring new positions till we know exactly the numbers that we have. That's sometimes, we'll internally refer to that as a freeze, but it's not a real employment freeze. Can we explain, can we at least clarify that we do or do not have a long-term freeze other than just a...
And that was my fault for when I made that statement a couple weeks ago, because it wasn't a freeze, because we were waiting on, especially the elementary world, all levels, to input their out of zones and new enrollments and those types of things. So they did get those in. We monitor the numbers daily, and we look at the staffing and the number of teachers, and you all know that there may be a chance that we'll take a teacher from one school to another based on numbers, but we monitor those numbers at each school daily.
It was more of a temporary hold. Skyward doesn't roll students forward into the next school year until the end of June. When those students are rolled forward into the next school year, that's where all the rezoning that Mr. Dixon did takes place. Once that rezoning takes place, then the principals can go back in now and start approving or denying the out of zones. So until we get that balanced out to know who's going where, we don't know where those new units are going and who's going to end up with those new units, even down to support staff. So we just kind of take a pause for about a week and make sure we try to get things settled down so we know where those units are going. Is it a new unit at Homosassa, or is it a new unit at the Canton Primary?
In other words, good business sense.
So
Good business practices. We're not going to overhire. We're going to make sure that we
minimal
work
amount of
within
time.
our means.
Yes, and if we are going to reduce an aide or a teacher, we want to make sure that we don't do that, hire a new person and then turn around and have to tell them they don't have a position after we do that. So we just kind of pause for about a week and just let things settle down and make sure we know where everybody's supposed to be. And all that has to do with the roll forward with Skyward.
I know we heard some comments that said, well, how come you guys went out and you spent all this money recruiting teachers and now you're not hiring any of them? We did hire those teachers. We tried to hire them locally first. There wasn't people both locally, regionally, in the state. So we went where we could find teachers, and we did hire those teachers. We didn't all of a sudden tell those teachers we weren't hiring them anymore because we didn't need them. Because I know some of the administrators have already said, I got a whole list of faculty coming that we're waiting for them to hire on. So do we have positions open, if I recall, listed on the site right now?
That is correct.
Yeah. So we are hiring teachers and interviewing teachers right now.
Yes, they are calling every day to hire, absolutely.
Coming from the classroom, this has
Do you have
been
anything
good
to add
behavior
to
on the
that?
superintendent's part for years, because I know sometimes when we had drops in enrollment, we moved teachers around, but I don't remember any teacher ever losing their job when other teachers in other counties did. We've never had to fire anybody out because we've had these hiring practices for years.
We do not have a freeze.
Correct.
Thank you.
There's a slow-moving turtle every day. He's not stopped.
That turtle always wins the race, though.
And we do. All right, I'm going to recess this meeting until 5 o'clock.